Ladies and gentlemen, the week 5 fellas bets. So right now I've got 5 bets in place, 2 leans on games where I took the over under in that specific game. We'll talk about all of this and more as we get into week 5. Last week we went 2 and 3 on these picks. The prop picks were a little bit better, profiting $800 Uskis, and the DFS was fine, solid. It was like a wash for the most part. So we head back into this week with the spreads, the over-unders. The over-unders for the most part have been solid. It's sort of these spreads. Like last week, the line's not able to get the backdoor spread in instead of the +3. It moved to -1. So you're on the right side of that bet long term. It ended up beating the closing line by, 4 points in that one, depending on your book. But they ended up not getting the back door, so that one hurt. That was the swing door of the week. Same thing for the Pittsburgh Steelers, losing by 10, not able to move the ball at all on the back door, and that doesn't feel that great when Big Ben is trying to do that. I think he's like 29th with 6.1 yards per attempt. No Claypool to spread the field. Misses Juju twice on open. At least one would have been a walk-in touchdown. The other one would have been easily a 30, 40-yard gain, depending on if Juju can outrun the defender on him that he had 2 steps on. So yeah, let's get into it now with a week 5. All I ask from you is 2 seconds of your time to hit the subscribe button if you enjoy this channel, and drop in the comments right now, who is your favorite bet? What is your favorite bet on the week right now? It could be a money line, a spread, an over-under. Let me know in the comment section. So let's start with my first bet of the week this week. And yeah, I get it. My hairline is still fucked up because my barber fucked up my hairline. We're going to get through it. It's going to take 2 or 3 weeks to grow back, and we're going to slowly see this fucking hairline come back. If you're on the podcast, thank God you don't have to see this tragedy. So the first bet of the week is going to be, right now, the Green Bay Packers, who I think have been on the card every single week for me. I've either bet against them or on them. The Green Bay Packers right now, I have this game versus Cincinnati under 50. Now, at first, I was about to pull the trigger on Green Bay -3, and that just seems too good to be true. The Green Bay -3. There's some obvious faults here with this Green Bay team, most notably in their secondary now, where they're going to lose Jair Alexander, and their best cornerback is likely going to be rookie Eric Stokes, who's looked solid so far this year. Had his ups and downs, way more ups than downs, but again, it's been through 4 games of a regular season. They're down players on both their offensive and defensive line, right? They have not been able to generate pressure all that much this year without Zadarius Smith out there with a banged up throughout these games, Preston Smith. So this is a line where it's -3 Green Bay, and people think obviously Green Bay should win this game. I mean, they're on the road. I'm a little bit concerned about it. You get probably T. Higgins returning to the Cincinnati Bengals now. We'll see what happens with Joe Mixon there. But the Packers can't generate pressure, which is the biggest fault on this Cincinnati team, is their offensive line not being able to defend it. And the Cincinnati defense right now is actually decent at stopping the run and actually stopping the pass. And since they're good at stopping both those things, I started to have the gears grind in my head here, and we looked more into this game from an under standpoint. So the under 50 looks really appealing to me because of the following couple of things. The biggest one is these are the 2 slowest teams in the NFL in situational pace. And what does that mean? It means that when the game's within basically a score, when not one team is playing from 3 scores behind, and based on the spread of this game, we should not expect that. These are the 2 slowest teams in football. And Cincinnati, they don't bring that much pressure, and they really can't get that much pressure. And the Green Bay offensive line has held up even when people do bring pressure without David Bakhtiari and without Elton Jenkins for some of these games. I think what Cincinnati is more likely to do is go too high, is to go cover 2. And when you go cover 2, it's the ability to then run the ball with A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, which the Packers have had success with. And we know Cincinnati, I mean, they've been passing the ball more and more these last 2 weeks. Not having Tyler Boyd and being trailing in games, trailing 14-0 to the Jaguars is going to force you to throw the ball more. But for the most part, they've wanted to run the ball. They continue to pound Joe Mixon when he's healthy and out there 20 times a game. So if you're going to have these 2 teams running the ball a lot more, because that's the way that the chess pieces are laying out, and they already play really slow, a 50-point total is pretty damn high. I thought this total was going to come in around 48. I'm not shocked to see it drop to 47, 48 by the time lock hits. Our prior preconceived notions is that this is the greatest show on turf, like last year's Packers offense, and that it's also for Cincinnati, a team that's going to chuck the ball all around to these weapons that they have out there. And really, that hasn't been the case for either team so far this season. The Packers have been fine, and Cincinnati has been running the ball more than they're throwing the ball. So we take the under 50 there. Another couple of metrics just to look at from an EPA standpoint, expected points added. You're going to see Rodgers seeing little pressure because Cincinnati ranks number 22nd in pressure rating, which will allow the Packers in what is a borderline top 10 run offense. When they choose to run the ball, you saw A.J. Dillon get loose last week as Aaron Jones was not fully healthy. When they choose to run the ball, can be effective. So we'll take the under 50 there, and I have not yet bet it, but I lean Green Bay -3. I don't know about that one. The Green Bay -3, it seems too good to be true. The line's not even moving now through a day. I'm recording this on Wednesday morning early. I looked at all the lines yesterday on Tuesday. Those lines still have not moved. And the dark gray on this one on OddsJam, this is OddsJam where you can compare all the lines from every single sports book, especially if you live in a state where you have access to multiple sports books, which most legal states do if there's at least one there. If you have multiple sports books, you should be using OddsJam because it allows you to check. It allows you to check where you're getting your best price, if you will. So the over-under right now, 50. If we want the under 50, we want to get the best number here. So BetMGM has a minus 105. You're going to get a minus 105 at Borgata, basically everywhere. Right now, Fox Bet has that number at plus 100. So again, if you have access to Fox Bet, you should, or Pinnacle, you should be taking the plus 100 plus money on the under 50 compared to the minus 105. You're basically making right here an extra $5 per 100 you bet. Now, if you only have access to DraftKings, it's still a solid line at minus 105. So that is going to be OddsJam. You can use that. You can check that out down below. Not only is it an odds comparison tool, but they also have some other things on OddsJam. They have basically middling, so you can middle the number to guarantee yourself at most breaking even, but doubling your money if it hits the middle. If the line moves and you can middle it. Arbitrage, things like that. You can check that out all on OddsJam. If you want to sign up for any of those exclusive tools, you can use the code SAL for 30% off. But the odds dashboard is essential when trying to compare and look at odds. Now, the second bet I have in on the day is going to be another under, and this one's 50.5. It's going to be Arizona and San Francisco's under here. And last week, I was very close to taking under in Arizona and the Rams game. The over-under was like 55-56. They ended up scoring 57 points thanks to Arizona dropping 37 on the head top of the Los Angeles Rams. Sad day for LA. But this week, I like the under 50.5 here when they're getting a different opponent, another divisional matchup against a tough team. This San Francisco team is no walkthrough for any means, even if it is Trey Lance starting. And if it's Trey Lance starting, we actually like the under even more here. Look, Arizona is fantastic. That's why we liked them +6 last week, and they absolutely dominated that number by winning outright by 3 scores. Arizona is number 2 in offensive EPA. They are right now number 5 in rushing EPA, number 3 in passing. So they can get it done either way. Whether they want to run against you or pass against you, they can get it done. But San Francisco is also top 5 in offensive EPA. I mean, this is very similar to last week in terms of when Arizona was a massive dog going in against the Rams, and I was like, these teams kind of look the same. Why are they +6? It should be +3, if anything. That's kind of the way it's looking this week in terms of San Francisco on offense and defense, but I'm just going to take the under instead because San Francisco this week has the number 1 run blocking advantage on the entire week, meaning that a team that wants to run the ball, that might even have a mobile quarterback back there this week to run the ball even more, they are going to have the best opportunity based on their offensive line versus the Arizona defensive line matchup to actually run the ball. The number 1 advantage this week, according to Pro Football Focus. And then when you also take into account that Arizona, again, can run the ball if they choose to, they have a mobile quarterback which keeps the clock moving and longer drives sustaining, which means less 3 and outs and just the clock stays running. Both these teams are outside of the top half of the league, outside of the top 16, and situational neutral pace, meaning that they both tend to play slower when games are in a situation in a neutral pace, a closer-based game. So I'm just going to take the under 50.5 here. It's kind of a hold your nose special here as Arizona continues to drop 30+ points on everybody's head top. And we're going to take the under 50.5. And if we come over to OddsJam, you can find the under 50.5 right here in this column that we're scrolling through. And you're going to get some decent numbers. Not the best numbers, though, like Borgata, -115. You get a decent number at FanDuel at -118. We'd rather the -110, of course. If you want the -110, you're going to have to go to under, I believe, 50. So you lose a half a point if you want to go there and you get a little bit more juice, which might not be a bad idea, the under 50. I'll stick with the under 50.5. I got it at -110. If you want the -110 right here, which is going to be your best line basically everywhere you're looking right now. DraftKings not offering the best line, though, -120 at that. It's already bet down. So you can get it at a couple of spots at under 50.5 if you have access. FanDuel at -118. If you want the better number at -110, you get it at under 50. BetMGM will have it. FanDuel will have it, and some decent spots there. So either way, you're basically getting a nice price on the juice at -1. Yeah. Now the third bet. The third bet is yet again an under. Oh boy, he's taking 3 unders to start to show off, but this one is actually a lean that I plan on taking. Now this is going to be the Sunday Night Football game, a fantastic game environment. 56.5 projected total points between Kansas City and Buffalo. I'm taking the under 56.5. Not only because it's a high number, no. I know that these are 2 very good offenses so far. Kansas City ranks number 1 in offensive efficiency EPA, expected points added, and Buffalo is number 10. So 2 top 10 teams in offense. Kansas City is number 1 in passing offense EPA, and they're number 6 in rushing. But Buffalo's number 3 in rushing, right? And that helps when you have Josh Allen. But these are 2 top 6 teams in having success when running the ball. And then you break this down a little bit more, and both teams have a top 10 run blocking advantage this week. Buffalo, who's been running the ball more this year than last year, by far more this year, a positive 31% run blocking advantage, and Kansas City has the number 5 run blocking advantage of the week. 2 top 10 matchups. So this game is set up for these teams to run a little bit more than usual. And we've seen outside of the Philadelphia Eagles last week, but we've seen teams, especially through the first 2 to 3 weeks of the year, play these 2 high safeties, really neutralizing what Tyreek Hill can do and limiting Kansas City's points points, at least in the first half and most of that game. Teams have also done this to Buffalo as well, but they have some zone breakers because of what Cole Beasley can do, because of how many different sides of the field Steph Diggs can win in. But in general, they're also running the ball more. I mean, the first week you have Devin Singletary running for a second week, 30-yard touchdown up the middle against a too-high cover, right? And things along those lines. Zach Moss continues to find success against these too-high shells. This Tampa 2 defense. So I'm not shocked to see these two teams not run the ball nonstop. You're probably going to see 35, 40 pass attempts from these teams. But if they're running the ball a little bit more, if they're having to take their check downs and their 5 and 6 yard gains instead of their 40 and 50 yard gains, because this is the way that they're going to approach the game, which I expect them to, yeah, I do think the clock runs more. And when you need the clock to not run more and you need every second you can get to hit an over 56.5, right? I mean, you need both of these teams basically to be going out there and chucking the ball around for 4 touchdowns each. You need 28 points out of each team. And even that, over the 56.5 doesn't get you there. So I will take the under 56.5 because I do think the way that these teams match up, it's going to limit big plays, right? Buffalo's defense has been solid so far. Kansas City's defense, not great. Can stop the run, but not great in the past. But limit big plays and a little bit more running than what any of us are expecting. And I think that's how you maybe get out of the first quarter of this one, with the game being 10-3. Or 7-3, and everybody who has over tickets is starting to panic a little bit. And it's pretty simple here. The under 56.5 on OddsJam's comparison dashboard. You can just basically get the line anywhere you want. Like, there's a minus 105 out there, but for the most part, it's minus 110 on every single platform. Pinnacle has a minus 107 out there. Sugar House has a minus 109. But for the most part, DraftKings, FanDuel, all minus 110s. It's basically the standard bet right now. That is the exact spot that you want to be in. That is a perfect price. That is exactly where I would take it. I also do lean the Kansas City minus 2.5 at this point. I mean, that Kansas City minus 2.5 is a very, very good number, especially for a team that I believe is home. So I lean Kansas City minus 2.5. That's the number that you got when Baltimore beat them. And Baltimore beat them. What did it take? It took a Patrick Mahomes interception and a Clyde Edwards-Helaire fumble on the final 2 drives of the game for Kansas City for Baltimore to cover that number. I'm not sure how often that actually happens. And in general, Baltimore, I believe, was also home in that one. So I'll take right now Kansas City with the minus 2.5 as well on a lean. So that would be the 4th bet. I haven't officially taken it, but I'm about to go ahead and take that. So that would be our 4th bet. Now for our 5th bet, I have 2 more. And now we're going to finally get to some spreads here. We're going to finally get to some spreads, and we can start off with Indianapolis plus 7 versus Baltimore. And now this one might seem a little bit scary because Baltimore's just been murking teams, dominating teams, but it was just 2 weeks ago when Detroit was basically going to beat this Baltimore team, right? 19-7 until that massive field goal. And Indianapolis is not a great team by any means. I mean, they're number 23 in offensive EPA. They're number 19 in defensive EPA. But when you look at Baltimore, when you break down Baltimore, they're not great on defense. They're not. Like Marlon Humphreys, their entire rest of the secondary banged up. Patrick Queen ain't getting it done, the second-year linebacker. Their front 7, their front 4, not getting there with enough pressure. They only ranked number 15 in defensive EPA. On offensive EPA, they're number 13. So this is basically an average team versus a slightly below average team, right? You're looking at this Indianapolis team somewhere around the 20 to 25 range in terms of overall teams on offense and defensive EPA. When you're looking at this Baltimore team, around 15. And now Indianapolis is worse versus the pass, but they're a lot better versus the run. They're number 8 in stopping the run this week, and Baltimore has a bottom 10 run blocking advantage. Well, what does Baltimore want to do? They want to run the ball, and they made inactive Tyshawn Williams, probably the best running back in that backfield. Maybe not in terms of what his resume looks like in his career compared to all the dust bunnies in the backfield, but in terms of the ability in the passing game and what he has left in his step. I mean, they're going to run out there 30-plus-year-olds Latavius Murray and Le'Veon Bell and Devonta Freeman and these dust bunnies that are just slow pokes around the field. It's not going to get it done. Obviously, it helps a ton when you have Lamar Jackson back there, the most athletic freak in the entire NFL. So that's definitely going to help as well. But again, we catch 7 here. We're catching 7 points. This line to me should be like plus 5. This Indianapolis Colts team, yes, they have injuries on their offensive line. Yes, they've had some injuries on their defense as well. But for the most part, this is the same team that people thought had an ability, and maybe still do, to win their division. I know that they're 1-3 at this point, but this is a fine spot for Indianapolis. I'll take the plus 7 with potential chances to come from behind. And they have good matchups on offense. Like Zach Pascal and Michael Pittman and Paris Campbell, they might not shock or be world beaters for anybody, but when it's only Marlon Humphrey out there really locking anybody down, it should be an ability to move the ball pretty nicely. And maybe, just maybe, get Jonathan Taylor going a little bit. You even saw Marlon Mack get involved last week in the receiving game. If we can take that element just to continue to pick up first downs, we'll take the plus 7 with Indy here. And on the OddsJam comparison tool, the plus 7 is still the bet to get, or minus 7, whichever side you want, if you want Baltimore side, but I'm going to take the plus 7. It's all minus 110s across the board. You'll get a minus 125 on DraftKings. So here's the big thing, right? If you're in a state where you have the ability to DraftKings and FanDuel, and basically if one's there, usually the other is there, maybe even Fox Bet. DraftKings is offering this at minus 125, meaning you have to bet $125 to win 100, whereas FanDuel and Fox Bet are offering this, and MyBookie, at minus 110. meaning you have to bet $110 to win $100. This is a $15 cheaper bet right here per $100 that you spend. And maybe you're only spending $20, but you're still saving money, right? This is how you shop your lines. This is exactly why. It would be very simple just because you like DraftKings more to go into their sportsbook and take the minus 125. But right here, you're literally saving money. And when you save money over time, it's basically like winning more and more bets for your bankroll. And that is how you stay alive, you stay afloat, and maybe, hey, you even profit in this thing we like to do, this hobby we like to do called sports betting. So there's 5 bets for you, the schmacks for you right there. The 6th bet of the day is going to be one that is a stinky one. Ooh, this one smells. It stinks. But we're taking Detroit +8 versus Minnesota. And I'm very close. I was very close to taking Minnesota -8, but I took Detroit +8. This is a similar situation to what you just saw with Baltimore and Indianapolis. You're getting a lot of points on this team, and I'll take it. You're getting an additional point on this Detroit team that is still looking for their first win, that has played every single team they faced hard. Last week was the worst game they played, but even then, they're still fighting in the second half. They have a chance to cut the game to 3, and they just couldn't. But battling teams pretty strongly against San Fran, coming back in a game where San Fran played soft, battling the Packers for 3/4 strong. Basically should have beaten Baltimore, right? If this team almost beat Baltimore, and Baltimore's an 8-point favorite over Indianapolis, I think the spread on Minnesota and Detroit, a divisional matchup, should be a little bit closer here. But you get Minnesota off a win and Detroit off of a loss against a bad Bears team, which makes Detroit maybe look even worse. So +8. I think this line, if that didn't happen last week, if you take away last week before the spread should even started, this is probably a line that's closer to +6, somewhere around there. So I think we're catching an additional 2 points. And 2 points in the NFL, if you try to pay for those points, it would cost you a lot in terms of the juice. So I take that, right? I take that. And now this is a terrible defense. This is probably the worst pass defense. This is a bottom 10 run defense in terms of expected points added by Detroit. A very bad defense. But if I look on the other side of the ball, yeah, versus the pass so far in zone coverage, this has been a solid team for Minnesota. But you don't expect Detroit to win versus the pass. Like, they have TJ Hawkinson, who's being taken out of games the last couple of weeks, and then nobody else. I'm not scared of Khalif Raymond, the rookie Amon-Ra St. Brown, or Quintus Cephas, right? No, they want to run the ball. They have Jamal Williams, they have DeAndre Swift, they want to run the ball, they want to play off of their running backs in the passing game. And Minnesota right now is bottom 5 in run defense, run EPA, expected points added. They're number 28 there. So you have Detroit, whose strongest piece of their entire team is their offensive line still, facing a team whose weakest part of their team right now has been their defensive line at generating pressure, and also their offensive line for Minnesota, but their defensive line in terms of this matchup against the Detroit offense. So Detroit should actually be able to win that battle. They should be able to move the sticks, and I think that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to lean heavy on the run and use these running backs as they have on an extension of the run game, and they just have to keep it within 8. I think Detroit is live to fucking win this game for their first one of the year, believe it or not. I'm not taking the money line, but I do think that they are. At +8 for Detroit right now in this divisional matchup, I'll take it. I'll take them to be able to move the ball on the ground, to be able to pick up enough yardage in the passing game to keep this game within 8 points. Hell, if they lose by a touchdown, I don't care because we have the +8. And the bet to get is still the +8. You might get to find a better line on the price of it at +7.5, and that's still fine. The +7.5 is still fine to me. I just don't want it to be +7 at this point. I want to get that magic number still. But +8, you'll still find some solid numbers out there. You'll find a -120 on Fox Bet. You'll find a -120 on Pinnacle. If you want a better number, well then yeah, you just jump right up here and you can see you get FanDuel at -115. You get a -110 on Fox Bet. DraftKings still charging the most price, probably because they're taking the most action and they can afford to, at -120. So you're getting overpriced on some of these lines on DraftKings right now. But Fox Bet, FanDuel, MyBookie, that's going to be where the +7.5 is if you want the better price. Again, the +8 is out there. You're just maybe going to pay a little bit more for it. So I'm fine to take the +7 if indeed they're charging you more at this point now as the week's gone on, depending on when you're watching this, for the +8. So there's 6 bets. I ended up adding the lean on -2.5 Kansas City. So 6 bets as we head into the week. Wow, you know what would be great? A 6-0 week. A 6-0 week would be great. We'll have player props, all this stuff on DFS, a ton more on this channel. So if you're stumbling upon this channel because you like sports betting and you just found this, be sure to stay for all the other videos where I discuss player props, which have been our most profitable endeavor on the year. DFS, where we've already won so far this year over $30,000 Rooskies, and it's only through 4 weeks. Bunch of stuff going down. I appreciate you all for tuning into this one. And again, I want to just remind you to hit the subscribe button if you're still here. It really helps this channel grow. And check out OddsJam. That was the odds comparison tool we were using on screen. It is going to help you a ton in saving money and identifying the best lines to keep you alive in the game longer. And hey, maybe even make you a profitable sports bettor. Thank you for tuning in today. I appreciate you all a ton. My name's Sal, and I'll see you all beautiful people in the next one.